Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Grab a seat. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a confession, it's a collapse. The subject line just said, "The truth." No sender name. No preview text. No warning. It landed in my inbox at 3:14 a.m. The kind of time nothing good ever happens. I didn't even hear the notification. I found it by accident while searching for a delivery confirmation the next morning. And the moment I saw it, everything else in my life blurred out. Because The Truth wasn't just a catchy title. It was a loaded gun aimed straight at my chest. I didn't open it right away. I stared at it for hours, terrified of what it might say. My divorce from Colette was finalized 5 months ago, and I had barely gotten to the point where I could sleep through the night without imagining her laugh echoing down the hallway. I thought I had seen it all. The cheating, the lies, the way she twisted everything to make me feel like the guilty one. But this was different. By the time I opened it, my palms were sweaty enough to smudge the trackpad. The message was short, brutally short. "You don't know the real reason she left. I was there that night, and you deserve to know." That was it. No signature, just a video file attached. No description, no hint. The name of the file? Hallway_cam_309. MOV. I froze. I had never heard of that file name. But something about it, the way the numbers felt cold and deliberate, sent a chill down my spine. And here's the thing. When I finally pressed play, I thought I was ready. I had no idea I was about to watch the moment my marriage truly ended. Not the moment it collapsed, but the moment it was murdered. I must have hovered over that video file for 5 straight minutes, my finger trembling above the trackpad, my mind screaming every reason not to open it. I told myself it could be fake, or worse, some kind of sick prank. But something about the timing, the coldness of that subject line, and the way the message was written, it all felt too calculated. Like someone had been watching, waiting. And now, they decided I was finally broken enough to hear the rest of the story. I double-clicked. The screen turned black for a moment. Then a grainy hallway appeared. The video was dated exactly 7 months ago, a month before Colette asked for the divorce. The timestamp in the corner read 10:32 p.m. I didn't recognize the hallway at first. It wasn't our home. It wasn't her workplace either. But the longer I stared, the more the details came into focus. The floral wallpaper, the scuffed baseboards, the slightly tilted security cam angle. And suddenly, it hit me. I had been there once, for a corporate holiday party. It was a downtown office suite for a law firm. I remembered because she told me they were just consulting her for freelance marketing. Except, in the video, she wasn't consulting anyone. Colette entered the frame wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Low cut, too revealing for work. She glanced behind her, smirking. Then a man appeared. Tall, shaved head, suit too nice for casual business. He grabbed her waist like they'd done this 100 times. She kissed him without hesitation, like it was second nature. Not just a kiss. A full-body, intimate embrace. The kind of thing you don't do unless there are feelings. Unless there's history. I stared, mouth open, not even blinking. Every part of me tensed as she pulled away, looked straight into the camera, and winked. Not at him. At the lens. As if she knew someone would watch it. As if she wanted me to. The video cut off there. No sound. No more footage. Just that moment. That moment I realized the cheating wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was planned. Targeted. And that wink. That was no coincidence. I closed my laptop and sat in silence. The room felt colder. Smaller. Like the walls were closing in. My heart was thudding so loud I could hear it in my ears. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had mocked me. Or worse, maybe someone else had. Someone close. Because now I had questions I never thought I'd have to ask. Who recorded it? Who sent it? And why, after all this time, were they showing me this now? Whatever this was, it wasn't over. And something told me, the worst was still ahead. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, that image of her smirking into the camera flickered behind my eyelids like a curse. It wasn't just the betrayal that wrecked me. It was the performance of it. The confidence. The calculation. I kept replaying that single moment over and over in my head, analyzing the tiniest details, the color of her lipstick, the curve of her smile, the fact that her wedding ring was gone. At some point around 6 a.m., I got up and made the weakest cup of coffee of my life. I just sat there at the kitchen table, staring at the tile like it owed me an explanation. I wanted to delete the email, erase the video, pretend none of it happened, but I knew better. This wasn't something I could forget. It was something I had to understand. And then, just as the sun pushed through the clouds, another email arrived. No subject line this time. Just a blank bar and a single attachment. Listen, MP3. I hesitated. Last time it was video. This time audio. I clicked download, staring at the file as it sat there on my desktop like a ticking bomb. My hand was shaking again, just like the night before. I clicked play. It was her voice, Colette, and she was laughing. I heard clinking glasses, murmurs in the background, maybe a restaurant or a bar. Then another voice, a man. The same one from the video, I was sure of it. Deep, confident, too casual. I couldn't hear every word, but one line came through crystal clear. You think he ever suspected? Her response was a light, teasing laugh. Emery? Please. He still thinks I'm miserable without him. Then she added something that made my stomach twist. Let's just say, I'm glad the hallway camera caught that night. He needed to see it eventually. The recording cut out. It wasn't just cheating. It wasn't just lies. It was a coordinated act of cruelty. And worse, they knew I'd find it. She knew. She wanted me to. This wasn't a random leak. Someone had sent me these files with her blessing. Or maybe someone was using her. I didn't know which possibility terrified me more. I stared at the empty email, my mind racing. There was no return address, no trace of the sender, no clues except the voice I used to wake up next to, now laughing at my expense. And that's when I realized something even darker. If these files existed, there might be more. Someone was feeding me breadcrumbs. Someone who wanted me to see the full picture. But why? Revenge? Closure? Or something else entirely? I opened a blank document and wrote 2 words at the top in all caps. Who benefits? Because I was done being a spectator in my own humiliation. I didn't know it yet, but the next piece of the puzzle was already waiting for me. I don't know what madness looks like from the outside, but from the inside, it's weirdly quiet. That's how I felt for the next 2 days. Quiet. Not calm. Not numb. Just suspended. Like I was waiting for something else to drop, and somehow, deep down, I already knew it would. I barely ate. Didn't respond to texts. I took a sick day from work and spent it sitting on the floor, refreshing my inbox every few minutes like some addicted codebreaker. But nothing came. No more videos. No more audio. No more faceless digital ghosts. Then, on the 3rd morning, I stepped outside to find something physical. Something real. An envelope. White, unmarked, sealed, tucked neatly under my windshield wiper. At first, I thought it was a parking ticket. I live on a quiet street. Stuff like that's rare. But as soon as I touched it, I felt the thickness. Not paper. A flash drive. I looked around, scanned the sidewalks, windows, passing cars. No one. Not a single person in sight. Just wind and silence and the whisper of something crawling under my skin. Back inside, I stared at the envelope on my kitchen table. I didn't open it right away. I wanted to pretend I could walk away, that I could just toss it and reclaim whatever little dignity I had left. But I'd already crossed that line. The truth had teeth, and it had bitten deep. Inside was a note. Handwritten. You were never supposed to find out this way. But she doesn't deserve your silence anymore. Play the video. Trust what you see. No name. No signature. Just a small USB drive wrapped in tissue like it might break. I plugged it into my laptop, every nerve in my body screaming. The file was titled Parking Garage _Exit 02. MP4. A different location. Different date. 6 weeks before our divorce. The camera angle showed a car slowly pulling out of a covered lot. It was her car. Colette's black Volvo. She stopped just short of the exit gate, and then the passenger door opened. It wasn't the man from the hallway video. It was someone else. Younger. Blonde. Looked barely out of college. She kissed him on the cheek before he left. Then, once she thought she was alone, she pulled down the visor, checked her lipstick, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Something just for herself. The file ended there. I sat frozen. Another man? A different location? The woman I thought I had married wasn't just cheating. She was running a full double life. Maybe triple. And whoever was sending me these files, they weren't just revealing affairs. They were showing me a pattern. A blueprint. A whole constructed lie I had once called a marriage. I got up to grab a drink of water, trying to stop my hands from shaking. That's when I saw something move outside my window. A person, gray hoodie, backpack, walking briskly down the sidewalk. I opened the door and called out, "Hey." The person stopped, slowly turned. He looked at me like he knew me, like he'd been waiting for me to say something. And then he smiled, just for a second, and disappeared around the corner. I stood there in my socks, heart pounding. What the hell was going on? Who was feeding me these secrets? And what did they want in return? I didn't sleep that night, either. I left the living room light on like I was expecting another knock, another envelope, another ghost. But no one came. My phone stayed silent. The street stayed empty. But my thoughts? Loud. Relentless. That smile from the guy in the gray hoodie haunted me. It wasn't a casual look. It was knowing. Like he had seen the inside of my life. Like he pitied me. Or worse, like he had helped ruin it. By morning, I felt unhinged. Not hysterical, just untethered. Like everything I thought was solid had quietly been made of sand. I needed to get out of the house. Breathe somewhere that didn't reek of memory. I went downtown, wandered through side streets until I found a quiet bookstore tucked between a bakery and a barber shop. It smelled like old paper and new beginnings. I used to take Colette to places like this. She said she loved the smell of stories. I hated that I still remembered that. I walked aimlessly through the aisles, running my fingers across spines, not really reading. Just existing. Just pretending. That's when I saw it. Tucked between two novels, spine bent awkwardly, almost like it had been jammed there in a hurry. A business card. Not for the bookstore. Not even for a business. Just a name. Devin LaRue. And below it, "You deserve the truth the first time." Followed by a number. No logo. No title. Just that. The name hit me hard. Not because I recognized it immediately, but because it tickled something buried. I pocketed the card and left without buying anything. I needed air again. I needed answers. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table with the card in one hand and my phone in the other. I Googled the name. Nothing useful. No LinkedIn. No Facebook. The number led to a generic voicemail inbox. No greeting, just the default robotic, "Please leave your message." But then it clicked. Devin LaRue wasn't a stranger. He was in Colette's yearbook. I remembered now, we'd flipped through it once, early in our marriage, after too much wine. She'd pointed to people, told stories. She mentioned Devin once. Said he was kind of a loner, but weirdly smart. She'd rolled her eyes and moved on, laughing about some other guy who'd become a DJ. I barely remembered it, until now. I stared at the card, trying to imagine why someone from her high school would be in my orbit now, playing spy games with flash drives and anonymous recordings. Unless it had started way before our marriage. Unless Devin hadn't found the truth. Maybe he was the truth. Or part of it. And suddenly, I couldn't breathe. Because if Devin had known Colette before I ever did, if he'd been close to her back then, what else had been hidden? What part of her life had I never seen? Even when she was sleeping beside me every night. The phone buzzed. No caller ID. One word appeared on the screen. "Ready?" And just like that, I wasn't in control anymore. Someone had a plan, and I was already playing my part. I didn't want to answer the call. My thumb hovered over the screen like it weighed 100 pounds. Every instinct told me to ignore it. Let it ring. Let whoever was pulling the strings stay in the shadows. But curiosity is a venom. Once it's in you, there's no flushing it out. So I picked up, held my breath, and whispered, "Hello." A pause. Static. Then a voice I didn't recognize, but immediately hated. "You look like hell in that bookstore, Emery." I froze. My blood turned to ice. It was a man's voice, smooth, low, but too calm. Too intentional. Whoever this was, he'd been watching me, maybe for longer than I realized. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice cracking with something between fear and rage. "You know who I am. You just forgot." But Colette didn't. He was right. I did know. It hit me like a slow, rolling wave. Devin LaRue. Not just a high school acquaintance. He was the one. The boy she had a thing for when she was 16. The one her parents disapproved of. The one who moved away after graduation and disappeared from her life, or so I thought. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. "Why now?" Devin chuckled quietly. "Because I gave her a chance to tell you the truth herself. Years ago, she said you were too weak. That you'd break." He wasn't wrong. But now that she's gone, I thought maybe you deserve to know just how deep the hole goes. I wanted to scream at him, hang up, demand answers in person, anything. But instead, I just sat there, completely hollowed out. "What do you mean, now that she's gone?" Another pause. "You really haven't heard?" he asked, voice almost surprised. He sighed. "Check the local hospital records. Saint Aurelius. I see you. You'll find her name there. Room 314. She's not talking much these days, but if you're lucky, she might say goodbye. And then, silence. The call ended. No time to respond. Just that final sentence echoing in my ears like a bad dream. I didn't even grab my jacket. I drove straight to St. Aurelia's in a storm of disbelief, fear, and something I hadn't felt in a long time: panic. The idea of seeing Colette again made my throat tighten. I didn't know if I was furious or terrified or both. But I had to go. I had to know if this was real or just another twist in whatever game Devin was playing. I asked the front desk about her. The nurse didn't look surprised. She just gave me a nod and told me the room number, as if she'd been expecting someone like me to show up. Room 314 was at the end of a long hallway, tucked away behind double doors. I stood there for a full minute before knocking. No answer. So I pushed it open. And there she was. Pale. Thin. Unrecognizable. Wires ran across her arms like spiderwebs. Machines beeped softly behind her. Her eyes were closed, but her lips moved ever so slightly, like she was trying to say something in her sleep. I took one step closer, and she opened her eyes. She saw me, and then she started crying. She cried without sound, just tears sliding down the sides of her face, soaking the hospital pillow. I hadn't seen her in over 6 months, and in that moment, she looked like someone else entirely. Fragile. Smaller. Her hair was thinner. Her cheeks sunken in. I didn't know what I expected when I walked into that room. Maybe rage, maybe shame, maybe nothing at all. But I never expected her to weep like that. Not after everything. I stood there, frozen. Part of me wanted to leave. Just turn around and never look back. But her eyes were locked onto mine, desperate and pleading in a way I hadn't seen since the early days of our marriage. Before the lies, before the late nights, before I ever had to question if I was enough. You weren't supposed to find out like this, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You mean the video? I said, my throat burning. Or the second one. Or the stranger who's been mailing me flash drives and following me around town. She closed her eyes. Devin. I sat down hard. The chair scraped the floor, loud in the sterile silence. So it's true. He's been watching me, feeding me this sick scavenger hunt. Why? Her breath hitched. Because I asked him to. For a moment, all I could do was blink. The room felt like it tilted slightly, like gravity had decided it was done playing fair. I don't understand, I said slowly, almost choking on the words. You wanted me to find out? She nodded. Not everything. Not like this. I didn't know he would go this far, but I asked him to show you pieces. After I was gone. Gone, I repeated. You're still here. She gave a sad little smile. Not for long. Silence settled again. And then, without me prompting, she began to speak, not in fragments, but in a quiet, steady stream. She told me it started before we were married. That Devin had been the first man she ever truly loved, but it was volatile, dangerous. They broke it off when he left town. She met me a year later, said I was safe, gentle, someone she thought could give her peace. But I never let him go, she said. Not really. I told myself I could bury him with time, but every fight we had, every quiet dinner, every routine, he came rushing back into my mind. I felt like vomiting. So you married me while you were still in love with him? No, she said, and for the first time, I believed her. I loved you, just not enough. And that's the part I'll never forgive myself for. I looked at her then, really looked at her. She wasn't just tired, she was fading. Whatever had landed her in that hospital bed had clearly been eating her from the inside out. But it didn't make this easier. If anything, it made it worse. Because she had waited until there was nothing left to lose to tell the truth. I didn't want you to remember me as the liar, she whispered. I wanted you to know there was more beneath it. I wiped a hand over my face, shaking. More lies? She slowly reached toward the drawer beside her bed, opened it, pulled out a sealed envelope. This is the last one, she said. The part even Devin doesn't know. I didn't open it. Not yet. I couldn't. Because what could possibly be left to confess? I didn't open the envelope right away. I took it home and let it sit on my nightstand for 3 days. I was scared, honestly. I kept imagining what could possibly be left to reveal. A child? Another man? Some final twist that would destroy what little sense of myself I had left. But when I finally opened it, alone, early one morning as the sun cracked through my blinds, I realized it wasn't destruction waiting inside. It was peace. Inside the envelope were two things: a handwritten letter from Colette and a photo. The letter wasn't long, just a page, but every word was hers. Her voice, her messy scrawl, her contradictions and all. She wrote that she had been diagnosed with late-stage lymphoma 8 months before the divorce. She said she didn't tell me because she didn't want to be pitted, didn't want me to stay out of obligation, didn't want our last chapter to be filled with tubes and beeping machines and quiet hospital rooms. She had always been proud, even when it made her impossible. But she also admitted something else. She said that the cheating wasn't about love. It was about panic, about facing death and trying to feel alive. She called it cowardly, said she hated herself for how she handled it. But she said the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was leaving me believing I had never been enough. I loved you, Emery, she wrote. Not perfectly, not always purely, but I did. And if you can take anything from all of this, please let it be this: you were not broken. I was. The photo was from our honeymoon, one I don't even remember being taken. I was holding her hand, mid-laugh, eyes squinting from the sun. She had scrawled 3 words on the back: keep this version. I cried harder than I ever had. Not because it made everything okay. It didn't. But because it was real. And real is messy. Real is human. And finally, I understood. I didn't need revenge or closure or some neat ending. I just needed the truth. And I had it now. I went back to the hospital a few days later, but her bed was empty. A nurse told me she had passed quietly during the night. No visitors. No noise. Just sleep. But I got to say goodbye. Not with words, but with forgiveness. These days, I'm rebuilding. Slowly. I started journaling. I read more. I take walks in that same bookstore district every week, not looking for ghosts, just breathing, just being. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Now it's your turn. What moment in this story shocked you the most? And have you ever been sent a message that changed your life? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. This is Reddit Confessions, where the truth always finds a way out.